All right, so we're doing this one a little bit different today. I'm gonna do this more vlog style because we have a handful of cars to drive. Acura has invited us out to Angeles Crest Highway to experience their run of Type S cars in the US, and there might be a Type R in there as well. And we're kicking things off with this one. This is a 2008 TL Type S, and this is pretty cool. This is a sweet sports sedan, and we're gonna see what it is like to drive here on Angeles Crest Highway. And then we're gonna come back and grab another car, and grab another car. We're gonna do it again and again. And this will be, I don't have all the stats pulled for these cars, so I'll do some voiceover along the way as needed, but just to kick things off, we're gonna get into them and kind of just get a raw feel. So I won't know like gearboxes and engines and all that good stuff. I do know this one is 286 horsepower because I just looked at the sheet though. So, and I believe it has a 5-speed automatic and it is paddle shiftable.
The TL Type S is powered by a 3.5-liter V6. It makes 286 horsepower and 256 pound-feet of torque, and that's improved over the 3.2-liter V6 in the standard TL, which produced 258 horsepower and 233 pound-feet of torque. Both come standard with a 5-speed automatic, but the Type S gets paddle shifters. It also gets an optional 6-speed manual with a limited slip differential too. Other upgrades include Brembo front brakes, stiffer roll bars and springs, and grippier tires.
The first thing I noticed right away is the steering feel, because this is hydraulic power steering, and good God, is it something that I miss from modern vehicles. I understand why vehicles have electronic power steering systems these days, but a good hydraulic system is wonderful, especially in you know, a place where maybe it wouldn't be as expected, like a sporty sedan of the day. But it feels good. What I'm picking up through the front tires is what's happening on the road, and that's helpful when you're trying to drive a car a little bit quickly. It's a great engine note, but this cabin is super duper quiet, which is one of the reasons why I didn't want to go with mics, so I could get more of a raw sound from the GoPro, and we can, you know, see the differences between nice 3 Series wagon over there. We can see the differences in cabin NVH, you know, noise quality. But God, this is a delightful machine. So we have I think it's a 16-mile total route. Obviously I won't talk the entire time, but it is very cool of Acura to invite us up here to do this, and they're doing this ahead of launching the new TLX Type S, which there is one here on display in its gold sparkly paint with black wheels, and it looks really, really good. There's tons of flake in the gold. I'll get some shots of it. I'll pop them in here as I'm talking about it, but it is a damn fine looking car that I'm very much looking forward to driving. And I haven't been on Angeles Crest in a while either, so this is fun. This is a nice place to drive. It's just far from where I live. I mean, it's not that far in the grand scheme of things, but when you have to drive through Los Angeles traffic to get here, it adds up quick. It's about 50 miles from my house. I think 60 miles based on the Waze route I took to get to the base of Angeles Crest today. So, back to this car though. It's 2008 TL Type S. This is a great example of a car you would have bought back in the day that is unassuming on the outside for the most part, except for, you know, the ardent, eagle-eyed enthusiast would be like, oh, somebody got the Type S. But on this road, this car feels really good. I haven't had a reason to go hard on the brakes yet, so they're fine. Brakes are fine. There's not a huge initial bite, which is probably fine. I don't know how old the pads are on this thing anyway, but they were smooth, and that's good. Smooth is good. We got a Ford Escape in front of us. Hopefully there's a turnout or a passing lane. Let's grab the paddles while we have a chance. So fourth, third. Oh yeah, look at that. Give a wave and a thank you, and off we go. I wonder how traffic is in general on Angeles Crest. I'm used to Ortega, where Ortega is miserable for turnouts. which is why I usually don't shoot on Ortega. I usually shoot on South Divide, which is far less trafficked, if it's trafficked at all, while I'm out there. Give the cyclist a nice wide berth. This car feels so tight and well made, and let's dip into that engine noise with the revs. We barely touch the revs. It pulls strong through the entire rev range. This is a delightful, delightful machine. The seats, even back then, were comfortable. You can tell their infotainment system started, becoming an orgy of buttons, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays as we go backwards in the order. I didn't come here with a plan in terms of what years I was gonna do. Let's see if we can get around this Civic. Not a problem. So you can see where their orgy of buttons and knobs started coming all the way back even in 2008, which in my head doesn't sound that long ago when I say just the number, but it was a while ago. I was 28. Cue some James Gunn picked out song that talks about the past. The paddles respond nice and quickly on this car, and then because it revs to almost 7. God, I was barely getting into this thing. Everybody's like, it's a VTEC dipshit, drive it like one. This is just absolute, and I feel like even passengers would be comfortable in this thing as you're doing this over these roads. Yeah, you gotta let it run up. I don't want to know what I was doing before. You gotta let it rise into the rev range. What an absolute lovely machine. All right, so now we've jumped to the RSX Type S, and this is a car I've never driven. I've never driven an RSX. You can see the link from Integra to RSX. It's not as, charming of a vehicle, I guess you could say. So, what are we dealing with power-wise? I have no idea. We'll get to that in the voiceover.
This is the car that replaced the Integra, and the Type S version is better than I ever expected it to be. While the standard RSX makes 160 horsepower and 141 pound-feet of torque, Acura bumped this twin-cam 2-liter 4-banger in the Type S up to 200 horsepower. Eventually, it raised the output further to 210 horsepower. It only comes with a 6-speed stick, and Acura tuned the suspension and gave it larger front brakes. And for those who enjoy their tunes, stuffed a more robust sound system as well. Now, this specific car wears the A-Spec package, which means the suspension is further tuned, the car has more aggressive aero, and trades 16-inch wheels for the 17-inch hoops you see here.
But I do know I have a manual gearbox, 6-speed, and the rev counter in front of me redlines at 8. So that's awesome. So I guess this is, this isn't a K engine, right? Is this still a B series engine? Again, on Acura, people are screaming at me right now. I will figure it out, and I will redeem myself in the slow motion voiceover segments of this. But for now, I'm going to give you my thoughts on taking it for a spin. Seat, always, like I say, gotta say it every time I'm in an Acura, comfy. So let's go. 160 mile per hour speedo, white gauges, which are, period at the time. You're like, oh, I got the white gauges. Salvage title that my friend gave me for free. It admitted a minor front-end collision, but it caused both airbags to blow, and they didn't want to just dump it off at a junkyard. They'd rather see someone enjoy the car, even though it was at the time essentially not really worth fixing, which is kind of crazy to say now. So I drove that car for a little bit, really enjoyed it. sold it to a friend of Hooniverse, Rick Ratcliffe. He drove it for a tiny bit, and then he sold it as well. So I have no idea where that car is. But this is reminiscent of that experience, just in a nicer interior wrapper in terms of luxuries, not necessarily design. I like how the stereo and HVAC stuff is kind of canted towards the driver, though. That's kind of nice. Makes you feel like you're in something sporty and buzzy. I love that you can just hold these gears in these cars. Under 60,000 miles on it. Sounds fantastic. Oh, steering feel, what a wonderful thing. This is an absolutely wonderful car. I never really gave the RSX as much of a chance, just because they never looked as cool as the Integras when I was growing up. It's like the Integra lost its edge and got soft and bigger and stuff like that. But it doesn't feel huge on the inside, that's for sure, compared to the Integra, though I'm sure there's more room. Could do without the sunroof, get back some of the headroom. But if you owned one of these back in the day, man, you knew something I didn't. And this one, even with 60K on it, absolutely wonderfully suited to these roads. And now we're returning to an old friend. How could I not drive this one? This is one of the best press cars I've ever borrowed. This is one of the greatest front-wheel drive cars ever made. This is an Integra Type R. Down a gear compared to the RSX Type S 5-speed. Our red line is higher at I don't know, that looks like 8,400. Red line maketh the man. Oh God. That sound. It is immediately more raw than the RSX Type S experience. As you would expect, there's less going on inside here, in a good way. Just, it's indicative of the car at the time. I like the simplicity, obviously, compared to the RSX Type S. Not that it was overly complicated. It gets more complicated when you get to that TL. By then, that's a luxury sports sedan. When this is a front-wheel drive sports car that makes all the right noises and does all the right things. Shift yet, because we've got B-Series goodness happening under the hood. We've just got incredible steering, super comfortable cloth. I love these seats. Super comfortable cloth seats. Are excellent. Steering is excellent. Gearbox is excellent. Engine is excellent. It's all good, baby. God, I'm sorry for that. If my daughter were older, she'd be embarrassed by her father. That will come in time. VTEC changeover, baby. Oh, yes. Oh, that's where the awesome awesomeness happens. I don't give a shit about that Corvette that just went by. He doesn't have a VTEC changeover. He doesn't know what it's like to live up in the rev range. I mean, he has torque, which is nice, but this car is wonderful. Here's another Acura I've never driven. This is a 3.2 CL Type S. It's funny to see going back down in technology from the TL. This little nav screen is kind of fun in a vintage way. There's a 6-disc changer right up here in the front. I mean, at the time, luxury as hell. Tape deck. And Acura hadn't gone full button crazy yet. I mean, it still needs buttons because back then, but there's this little screen has touch features. Kind of like me. I don't. So the shift lever has an interesting pattern where, you know, park, slide down for reverse, and then drive, just regular drive, D5 is in the middle, and you can keep going down to D4, D3, or 1 and 2, back and forth. But up at D5, you can slide it over into a manual shifting mode, and they have it backwards, where forward is upshift and towards you is downshift. And that is wrong.
This is the Acura of which I knew the least about. On this model, the 2nd Gen CL Coupe, Acura made it a bit larger and more luxurious, but also more sporting in an effort to compete with the BMW 328 and Mercedes CLK 320, hence that 3.2-liter mill in the nose. Though, once again, this isn't the standard car, so the engine gets more juice. Instead of 225 horsepower, we have a 260 horsepower inline-6 backed up by a 5-speed automatic gearbox. The Type S makes more power thanks to a dual-stage induction system and freer flowing exhaust. More air make engine go vroom better. Like other Type S models, Acura have stiffened up the suspension and given the car larger stabilizer bars. On the 3.2 CL Type S, we get 17-inch wheels versus 16-inch wheels on the standard 3.2 CL. And the Type S uses higher performance Michelin tires as well.
So here we go. Rolling onto Angeles Crest. In the 3.2 liter, or I mean, I assume it's 3.2 liter, the 3.2 CL Type S. Oh, man, steering is heavier. There's definitely a heftiness to it. And I don't know if it flows as nicely as the TL. And it is definitely not as enjoyable as some of the other cars, which technically I haven't driven, I think, for the purposes of this video, even though I've already driven them. In filming, this will be in order, but in real time, I actually just got out of the Type R. So that's unfair for the CL. I should have gone CL to TL or TL to CL. This is a bit more luxurious in its tuning, but it's still hydraulic, which is nice, and you know, there's still some feedback, but it feels like some of the road noise has been muted coming through, which at the time people probably appreciated when they bought one of these. It still feels fancy. This is, you know, an era when Acura felt just as luxurious as the competition for the most part. You know, higher end premium stuff. Trying to see if they had ELS on the sound system yet. And this just said, nope, it's Bose. Gotta fast forward to the future and get some of that ELS goodness. As far as a sports sedan goes, though, I mean, I feel quite comfortable out here on Angeles Crest in this thing, so that's a testament to the car itself and the Type S nature of it all, right? Engine is willing to go. Red line looks like it's just under 7, so you know, we're losing as we go older. We're going to gain rev range, and if you go to the newer stuff, you lose rev range. Just the nature of the engines that, you know, get as time marches on. takes a longer second to set on. Does this have 704 miles? There's no way. Now I feel bad if I say anything bad about it. I think this has 700 miles on it. That's bananas. This one might have come out of the museums, which explains why the blue paint is flawless on this thing. Of all the cars I've driven today, this is my least favorite, but that's like, you know, it's like saying like, oh, we're all getting ice cream, and even the worst flavor there, you're gonna be like, I'm still eating ice cream today, and that means it's a good day. You know, you can order 5 pizzas in front of me, 4 pizzas in front of me. I love pizza. One of the slices isn't gonna be my favorite, but I still love it. And these seats are more comfortable than in the TL. These are the most comfortable seats of the whole day, for sure. This might be the most luxurious one, even though, you know, the TL has more features. This one feels like at the time it would have been more substantial, if that makes any sense. The engine noise is good though. It almost feels like there's like a gear noise that I'm hearing faintly in the background. That sounds kind of awesome. Yeah, if that's a gear noise, that's cool, because it almost has like a whistle, like not a whistle, but like a whine is a better way to put it. It reminds me of like someone is listening to an old racing clip in the background of like a BMW with straight cut gears, and it's way in the distance, but someone in another room is watching it and I can kind of hear it, and it's grabbing my attention.
All in all, this is a fun look at the Type S family and a bit of a taste of the Type R, which we've driven before. Go check out that video elsewhere on the channel. But what we're really here and getting excited for is the upcoming TLX Type S. The car looks fantastic and we cannot wait to drive it.